this step number 4, which is be of use, and it's find an appreciation for what you do. I don't think I did a good job of naming it, and I'd like to call it or augment that title. And what you might expect from this video is to find an appreciation for your intrinsic self, what you are as you are right now. In other words, as you and I, singly or as groups, as we nest in our environments, people automatically bring value to those environments just by what they are, no matter what they're doing. You know, the proverbial taking up dead airspace type criticism of a person, or a lack of motivation, or whatever things, or even so-called wicked people. People are bringing value to their environment. It's the nature of the world we live in, and there's no escaping from it. And I'd say that part of this pattern of be of use, I really want to express that it's necessary to find out what you are inherently, how you and I are, speaking for myself personally, how I am of value no matter what I do. Now, how I actually act and the things that I choose to do, that's another matter. But to recognize that the environment itself doesn't really suffer from what I actually do. Now, I know that the Buddhists, you know, or the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm, or the Buddhists, if you can't help a situation, do nothing at all, just try to avoid harming it. But the nature of reality itself is that you're inevitably going to do things that are sort of wrong, or you're going to behave in these kinds of ways. And so that will give you a good grounds to judge yourself, progress, move along, however you want to work with it. Those are other topics. The pattern here, or the step, is to see your value as you are. And it also enters into being self-honest. I bring in Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche as a sort of a guest. I put a film clip of Chogyam Trungpa to express the concept that's in that, which is of basic goodness. And he doesn't really say much in it, but there is this sense of the way that this place is built. Anything I have about the world that there's something wrong with it or flawed, that's a way level down from the fact that it's all basically good, and there's nothing that really needs to happen to it at that high level. That, you know, there's nothing to really take away or add at the highest level. Now, it's our privilege and opportunity to skillfully try to make something of ourselves, or do things that help people, or do things that work on certain skill sets or whatever. But that's another level of this situation. It's not really necessary.
The whole thing's working with each other's elements all together. It hangs together so well. And we begin to feel that way ourselves, that basic goodness exists in ourselves. Therefore, that we are not afraid of our world. We are not depressed in our world. We feel so good. We feel good or particular artistic things we are doing. We also begin to feel further ideas. And some people have tried to squeeze, like as if you are in a state of constipation. And the result is very meek and very technical. Always rely back on the technicalities, and then trying to produce something out of it. But you don't really feel good about the whole thing at all.
The challenge here is to recognize that you already are making a contribution to this world around. Just by being yourself. that might take some, some self-inquiry. You might have to. It might take some self-honesty and getting over certain rutted messages that are in my head. I want to get over things like false modesty, the sense that it's a heroic effort. Like Albert Schweitzer, is this great humanitarian or something like that. By coming here, you have a certain amount of real estate that's yours. It's all yours. It's given to you. It's the square foot that's under your feet. And I think of it as a cone that extends all the way to the center of the earth. Wherever you walk, it is your sovereign ground. And Rolfing is also called structural integration. It's a way that Ida Rolf, some German or Austrian woman, back in the day, I guess maybe it was in the 50s or 40s or whenever it was that she got into this thing and discovered this structural integration. It's a way of integrating the body. That there's a tendency, the thought is that there's muscular fragmentation within the body. We're broken into bits. And that the Rolfer massager digs deeply into the body to try to integrate these systems together. And so that's a little bit what I'm talking about there in terms of bringing in the aspects of Rolfing. That it's a mind-body therapy, but my goal here isn't necessarily to say that it's a mind-body therapy you should do, even though I found it extremely beneficial. I mean, they do before and after photographs, and before it I was kind of, my belly was like punched out, and I was kind of stoop-shouldered, and that was when I felt like I was standing up straight. And then they took pictures of me after the structural integration, and I was standing very, very much straighter and in a more direct alignment. Meaning, according to what the guy says, gravity is working in a complementary way. In other words, if I'm pulled over by the stresses of life or different even psychological states, I'm pulled over like this, then gravity pulls me over and it continues that process of disintegration. But if I'm straight and I'm stacked, if I'm stacked upward in a way, then gravity actually acts as a directional pull. Gravity pulls me down, and the structurally integrated person, and that means psychologically and physically and emotionally, gravity acts as a wonderful thing to push against, to respond to in an upward way. And that's why the man in the interview mentions that about aging and structural integration. The 10 Rolfing sessions, one of the sessions is what they call screwing on your head. And what that means is that, they basically do deep tissue massage around your shoulders and your neck, because the head, the argument here in the Rolfing world is that tension in your body keeps your body fragmented into pieces and you're not integrated. So, basically the arms are not integrated. None of the muscles work in an integrated way. And so what they call it fascia, I think it is fascia massage, so that the fascia tend to be sticky like this, and they rub against each other and they stick and they grab. Well, all that I'm talking about is not simply biology. That sticking and grabbing of the fascia, which are the bags that contain the muscle, make it so that you operate in a jerky, disjoint, non-integrated way.
The fascia to make the fascia better. We are actually not interested in the fascia. The fascia is just an avenue that allows us to work with the shape, the inner shape and the outside shape and the movement pattern of the organism. And that makes it very, very complicated in relationship to the field of gravity. Because our body is influenced by genetics, by our learning capacities, by mechanical impact, by emotional impact, psychological, even philosophical impact in a certain degree. But the way how all this impact together with the impact that Rolf does with the hands, aside of all this impact, gravity is acting permanently on us and makes us in the aging process collapse like this, or supports us at a decent level of vitality according to our age.
There's a sense of this fluidity of just recognizing that I am a whole creature. And when I recognize that I'm a whole creature, meaning I own the ground under my feet, in a sense, I own the air that I breathe, I own the water that I drink. I've got a right to all these things as a living being on this earth. And the reason I brought up the Rolfing session is because when I went through that Rolfing session, I had a very, very tangible experience of that. And in fact, it led to a sense of outrage. When I was walking home from the session, I it went through my mind that, our feet are encased in shoes, as Ishi, the last Yahi, the last indigenous American that was, he wandered into San Francisco. It's a good book, Ishi, the last Yahi. He said, my feet feel like two dead birds in boxes. The first time he wore shoes. In other words, he felt that the shoes were killing his feet because his feet were free and they touched the ground. And this is, watch It's a Wonderful Life, where Violet Bick, says, George, what am I crazy? It's like he wanted to go swimming up in whatever that lake was.
Have you gone crazy? Why, walk in the grass in my bare feet. Why, it's 10 miles up to Mount Bedford.
Okay, just forget about the whole thing.
In It's a Wonderful Life. And she thought he was nuts because he wanted to run around barefoot on the mountaintop. So these are things where, there's this immense self-consciousness, almost embarrassment about my own naked feet or these kinds of things. And those are ways that our own presence, our whole integrated personage in this world has been cut off from us by shoes, by sidewalks. So we don't appreciate the way that there is a communication between the earth and the soles of my feet. There's a communication between the soles of my feet and my legs and the rest of my body. These things all communicate. I wear shoes. I don't run around barefoot. I'm not trying to tell you to run around barefoot. I'm just saying that everything, almost everything in our society, even down to, let's say, computers and digitalization of imagery, we are digital cameras. We're even no longer an analog society. Things are broken into a million pieces. So because of these million pieces that we're in, we don't operate in an integrated whole. And in a lot of ways, these parts require, large systems, institutions, governments to coordinate these fragmented pieces, which is the reason for fragmenting the pieces. If you fragment the pieces, the only way they can get along with each other is if something above them holds them all together. The same is true of our own self, our own bodies. We have these parts of ourselves, and there's a striving for a sense of being integrated. Now, what does that have to do with being of use? It's that when I say be of use, it's not like go out there and make something of yourself. It's recognize your integrated whole, that you are integrated in the environment you're in, you're integrated with the people you're around, and that these aspects of yourself, the world around you, the air, the water, and that it includes other people. I'm not saying that like they are elements of your dream in terms of you can't drag them in. They've got their own life. It's not like you can presume on them. However, there is a world where you say we are all aspects of this coordinated dance of things. And I would argue that it's really difficult to experience happiness of any kind for any extended amount of time, a happiness that is sustaining and not just a giddy sense of getting what you want, but a real happiness of peace and contentment. It's difficult, if not impossible, to get that as long as I feel cut off from my ground, cut off from the earth, cut off from other people. And so that and cut off. The aspects of myself are cut off. My work self is cut off from my weekend self. My creative self is cut off from my check balancing self. My parental self is cut off from my little kid, inner child, whatever self.
What did you think about the ride?
It was great, and apparently I've never been on live television before.
It's the Powerball.
Tell me about the ride. What did you think about the ride?
Well, it was great
Why?
because apparently you're spinning around, and apparently every time you get dizzy,
Yeah.
that's all you do is get dizzy.
Is it fun?
Yeah. And I've never ever been on live television. I never ever be on live television.
Are you excited?
Yeah, and apparently I already went down the super slide. When I went down the one, I was scared half to death. I just freak out.
Okay.
Noah, what's your last name?
Deck Ritter.
Thank you very much. Thanks for listening, and look forward to the next one. The next one will be Find Wise Words, and what I'll probably do is do Find Wise Words with Strive for Self-Honesty, because I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.